Good morning. Please join me in a word of prayer. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, first of all, Lord, we continue to thank you for your mercy and your grace. Father, we do want to continue to lift up our veterans, Lord. We do thank you for them, Lord God. We thank you for their service, and we thank you for the ones that gave their lives, Lord. We continue to pray for our military, Lord. We continue to pray that you be with those people, Lord, as they, Lord God, go to and fro, Lord God, defending this country, defending our freedom. We thank you for our law enforcement, Lord God. We pray that you be with them, Lord. Pray your hedge of protection, your angels encamped around them, Lord, as they go about their daily jobs, Lord. It seems like we lose one every day, Father, so we ask that you be with them, Lord. Keep them from any hurt, harm, and danger. We pray for our leaders of the United States of America, Father. Be with our president, be with the senators and the Congress, Lord God. We just continue to pray for this disaster bill, Lord, that it get passed, Lord God. We ask that you touch hearts, Lord God, and we pray that those funds come, Lord God, for hurting cities and hurting counties, Lord. Lord, give this panhandle favor. We thank you, Lord God, for just sending people that are here to be a blessing to the people of Gulf County, to the people of this panhandle, Father. We continue, Lord God, to just, Lord God, give you praise. We pray for our local leaders. Continue to give us wisdom, Lord, as we conduct the business of your people. Father, we don't know it all, Lord. That's why we ask that you give us wisdom as we make these decisions, Lord. Be with our first responders, Lord. Bless the people of Gulf County. Bless this board. And Father, we continue to thank you for your mercy and grace. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning to everyone. May 28, 2019 Board of County Commissioners meeting. At the end of this meeting, if we have a time set aside for anyone that would like to come before the board. If you'd like to come before the board, please make sure you fill out the proper form located behind Mr. Whitfield right there. And just remember that if you're coming up as an individual, you have 3 minutes. If you're coming up as a group representing a group, you have a total of 5 minutes. Also remember, if you come before the board, make sure you come on up to the podium and make sure you state your name and address for the record, please, so we can make sure we get that on record. At this time, we're going to move right on down to the consent agenda. This is where one vote covers multiple items in the consent agenda. At this time, I ask staff members, are there any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? All right. Is there anyone in the public with any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? All right. Any board members with any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? If there being none, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 5-0. All right, we're going to move right on down to item 4, Mr. George Gonzalez, St. Joe Company. Come on up, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate the invitation to come and talk to you for a couple minutes this morning. What I'd like to do is give you a quick update, and then any questions that you may have, I'd be glad to answer them. Quick update on a couple of things. Number one, the topic of economic development. I think as we all know and we all agree, there are few topics that are more important than creating quality jobs for our region, our county in Port St. Joe, Gulf County and Port St. Joe. We are as committed as ever to economic development. We also know it's not a high probability sport, but that doesn't mean that we should stop trying. We should continue to try to attract jobs for our region in our area. I can make one commitment. Our commitment to economic development is as great as ever, and one thing that I will say is that as prospects look at our region, and if they're interested in one of our properties, we're not going to lose that prospect because of the real estate component. There might be other reasons that they don't come, but it won't be because of real estate. We're competing with the world, so it's always a challenge to bring jobs for our region, but the real estate component is not going to be a reason why we lose it. I know there's a company right now, an energy company looking at our area. They're looking at one of our properties, and we're going to work with Gulf County. We're going to work with that prospect to see if we can make that happen. On the port end, I'm sure you've seen that Eastern Shipbuilding, I'm sorry?
No,
Did you have a question?
I'm listening.
On the port end, Eastern Shipbuilding, as you have seen, they've started getting the site ready for the 20 acres that they lease from us. It's been a long time coming. I know we've all been waiting in anticipation for a long time for them to get started. So the movement of dirt is something that's very encouraging to all of us, and we hope that they're going to start their operations pretty soon. I don't have an exact date on when they will, but we feel pretty confident that it's going to be fairly soon. Let me stop there, and I've got a couple other topics to update you on, but any questions?
Any questions, commissioners, from Mr. Gonzalez? No, sir.
No?
Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Just want to throw
Yes,
in one thing, just to allay fears, because you by far are the best leader for St. Joe to deal with it that I've ever had the experience in old St. Joe or new St. Joe. There's been some local concern about with the exciting things that's going to happen there, the marina and the hotel type stuff that I'm sure you'll talk about, if that is going to in any way slow down any development of the port. And you've told us, no, it's not. And we've had those discussions before about Port of Miami, and the most expensive property in Florida is right across from the Port of Miami. So if you just allay those fears, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I started with economic development in my update. That to us and to me is really the most important topic. It was important before the storm. It's even more important after the storm. So from the perspective of the port, we're not going to stop trying. Again, it's not a high probability sport, and I know we've all been involved many years trying to bring prospects to the port. There's still traffic, there's still interest. It's a matter of, like anything else, the right entity, the right time. But our commitment to redeveloping the port and attracting jobs to the area, that has not changed one bit. And again, there's a reason why I started with economic development. To us, that's the most important thing. Thank you, Michael. Second thing is the airport. I can't tell you how much I support the idea of the county commission initiating a feasibility study for the potential of an airport. It can be something that's done incrementally over time. I personally think that can be helpful on many fronts, not the least of which is economic development. So I commend you for having that idea and moving forward with it. We like the idea so much that we're willing to work with the county under a public-private partnership arrangement. So anytime you guys are ready for us to move forward with that, we're very much ready to do that. We think it's a terrific idea. Last but not least, the marina. I know immediately after the storm, there was a lot of questions and rumors. I feel a lot of phone calls from folks wondering if we're going to redevelop it, what we were doing, if we were selling it. And I was consistent with everybody. We have no intention of selling the marina. We're committed to redeveloping the marina. It took a while, unfortunately, to start the demolition process, as I'm sure many of you have been experiencing and have experienced. Dealing with the insurance companies is a full contact body sport. So it took a while to get through that process, and we had the contractors mobilized literally a couple of days after we finished that process with the insurance company. And as you can see, the demolition process is nearing the completion. We've been in a planning process for the marina. Our intent is to redevelop the marina bigger and better. We don't just want to replace what was there before. We want to expand it and do more things. Dry storage facilities, there's a lot of cool things that we can do with dry storage facilities, state-of-the-art type technology that we're looking into. We're also looking at potentially adding lodging, hotel on the water, on the marina property, potentially adding some shops and even some residential. One of the things that's very important to us in the planning process is that we integrate the marina property with Reed Avenue. We're going to try to find some ways to integrate it so it feels more seamless, so it feels like it's part of the downtown, and it doesn't feel like it's disconnected from Reed Avenue. The last, and again, I'll open up the floor for any questions that the commissioners may have. Last thing is Windmark Beach. As everybody knows, D.R. Horton is our builder at Windmark Beach. They're doing really well. We're developing 94 additional lots for them right now. Who would have thought that a number of years ago? And they're actually antsy. Their worries now are gapping out, are losing product as they have sales momentum. Before the storm, the majority of the home buyers were second home buyers. After the storm, there's been a significant uptick in primary homeowners that have been buying homes at Windmark. We're going to continue to develop lots, and as long as that momentum continues, I don't anticipate us stopping. They're doing pretty well, and the homes did really well during the storm. I've told them that they need to include that in more of their marketing collateral, that their homes survived a Category 5, because their homes did very well. So that's just a very quick update. I can talk a lot about a lot of different things, but I know you have a full agenda, so I thought now maybe I would open the floor up for any questions that commissioners may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Any commissioner have any questions, Mr. Gonzalez?
Mr. Chairman, all I can say, Mr. Gonzalez, we appreciate all you're doing and working with this county. And, you know, we had this terrible hurricane, but we're going to overcome here, and we'll get back better. We'll be bigger and better in the end. But thank you and the St. Joe Company for what you do for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Staff, any questions?
Just
Mr. Gonzalez?
want to say again, we appreciate you coming, and most of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis doesn't come before the board, but St. Joe has, you know, all of my life owned 3/4 or more of Gulf County, but we deal with them continually on landfill and on buying property and on doing things, easements and right-of-way issues and drainage issues that St. Joe owns, and that they're so much easier today to work with than they were a few years ago. So we appreciate that. If we could go ahead and get permission for the county attorney to work with St. Joe on a P3 for the airport property.
All right, commissioners, I entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. We appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on down to item number 5, resolution of appreciation. Mr. Novak.
Mr. Chairman, good morning, Commissioners. If we can ask Kyle Hortzman to come forward with Metric Engineering, and the administration and the commission have advised the staff to work together a resolution this morning in appreciation. I don't know if Alan or Frank wanted to come up with Kyle. Commissioners, I wanted to read a resolution per the direction of the administration and offer it to you for your consideration. And Kyle, as you all know, Kyle Hortzman with Metric Engineering, familiar face to us all. The resolution reads as follows, Commissioners. The resolution of Gulf County Board of County Commission, State of Florida, recognizing Kyle Hortzman in appreciation of his contributions in the recovery and cleanup of Gulf County in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael. Whereas in recognition and deep appreciation of Kyle Hortzman's contributions and services on behalf of Metric Engineering and for the citizens of Gulf County, and whereas Kyle Hortzman demonstrated his capabilities in management and leadership in administering the daily operations for Metric's oversight of debris collection and removal from Gulf County in the aftermath of the hurricane, and whereas Gulf County's recovery and rebuilding have been aided by Mr. Hortzman's years of experience and practical daily approaches in assisting the Gulf County administration and its many hurdles and issues in the wake of this local natural disaster that impacted our community. Now therefore be it resolved, the County Commission of Gulf County of the State of Florida, with great pride and gratitude on behalf of all the residents and the many visitors alike to Gulf County, express their sincere thanks and profound appreciation for the contributions and hard work of Mr. Kyle Hortzman that he has provided to our community. Be it further resolved that Mr. Kyle Hortzman has steadfastly served this community in his leadership and oversight of the daily debris collection and removal services by Gulf County vendors, and this unanimous resolution from the Gulf County Board of County Commissioners salutes him for his dedication and hard work in Gulf County's overall recovery and rebuilding. It's prepared for unanimous approval and adoption of today's date, May 28th of 2019, as prepared for the Commissioner's signatures and attested to and approved for its form and content from the county clerk and county attorney. Commissioners, I'd offer it to you all for any comments and consideration of this resolution.
All right, thank you, sir. Any commissioners want to add anything before I go back to Mr. Hammond and let him speak a little bit? Mr. Horstman, we really do thank you for your leadership with Metric and getting these debris and getting this stuff cleaned up. Thank you for all you've done for Gulf County, so we really appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. My pleasure.
Before y'all present it, and if
Yes,
y'all would come up and present it, and we'll get it framed for him. I think Commissioner Bush has probably dyed his hair. I don't believe I see any gray, but I gave him some gray the first couple months. We had a Metric got a rough break, and mainly from me, for the first couple months. But I can tell you, it all turned around when y'all brought him in. It has worked seamlessly. It's worked seamlessly with staff, and that was the right move. And we appreciate it. We appreciate all the hard work, and it wound up good in the end, but it was certainly tense there for a while. And I appreciate you and appreciate your patience, because I was pretty rough on some of your folks from time to time. But anyway, I think Gulf County did better than any of the other counties, and probably because of this change that made us meet the timeline. So, and Frank, I definitely have to apologize to Frank. So he doesn't dye his hair. His really great.
I should thank the board for recognizing one of Metric's employees, and I do believe he's done an outstanding job. Thank you for taking time to recognize him.
Yes, sir.
It's very humbling.
Do we need to approve that?
If you would.
All right, let's
Put through a vote, sir.
All right, let's approve it first. All right.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner McCrone. All right, and then second by Commissioner Rogers. Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 5-0. All right, we're gonna take a quick picture, and we're gonna get this thing, we're gonna get it framed for you and get Michael to hand deliver it to you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. We really appreciate it. I see we got Mr. The warden in the building today. Mr. Warden Payne, you want to come forward and say anything? Just for the record, Mr. Payne, just state who you represent and everything for the record.
I'm Scott Payne. I'm the warden at Gulf Correctional Institution. Thanks, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
County Commissioner, for the invitation. Not much has changed since last month. We still ongoing with the reconstruction. We're on pace, hopefully, to get some inmates back 2 to 3 weeks. I know the Secretary's office has asked, for some a timeline on when we could probably possible return of inmates, but I told them at this point, I really can't give them a date, a hard date, because we still got some fire safety issues, life safety issues to deal with sprinkler heads, backflow systems, and stuff that we got to work out with our contractors. But everything's on pace. We're hoping to start receiving inmates that we don't know what the progression's going to be. We don't know if it'll be 50 a week or 100 a week. But right now, we're looking at possibly opening up 4 or 5 dorms to start off with at the main unit. The main focus right now has shifted to the annex reconstruction. It's going. The mold abatement or the remediation is going very well, but but it's very in-depth. And that slowed the whole process down as far as the reconstruction is concerned. But the main unit, most of the contractors are out of the main unit now. They're actually going over a punch list that we have. Our agency came in, folks from facility service, maintenance and construction came in last Thursday and walked through the main unit and had a very extensive punch list. So, but it's nothing that's going to hinder us from, pushing the timeline back farther into July or anything like that. So we're hoping the middle of June sometime, the very latest, the 1st of July, to begin receiving inmates. But everything's going well.
That's good. That's
Any questions?
good. Any questions?
One,
Yes,
thank you, Mr. Payne, for coming this morning. Just for the information with the people, some of the commissioner, myself, Commissioner, the chair, and Commissioner Quinn and Commissioner Rich, we had the opportunity to go up to Washington along with Bay County and address issues, and one of the issues was with this census that's coming up. Now, this hurricane that we had couldn't have hit it hit at the worst time. We start census taking next year, 2020. And we lost in this little county alone. Now, you just add it up with the inmates, and they're counted. Wherever you at, that's where you're counted. But we lost 20%. Right now, we're 20% down on our population in this county, and hopefully with the warden and his staff working hard to get us back. Otherwise, your money is based off, the money that we get out of the federal government in the state is based off of your census. And that means we'd have to go to 2030. We'd go 10 years in there unless they made some provisions for it. But Warden, we appreciate everything, and you try to get our head count back up if you can, sir.
That's
Do
what we're
everything you
working on.
can. We need numbers. We need numbers. And you control about 3,000 to 3,500. So anything you need out of this county, you let us know. You let us know.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
all right, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Sam?
The one benefit from that meeting, it was a great meeting, but it was kind of depressing because they're a government agency that's got a book and they don't veer from the book. And we had been told they were going to do our institutional count on February the 1st. We got it delayed till April 1st, which is the absolute last day that they can do it. But if we see that annex is not going to be up and running, then we need to know soon where we can start beating on the governor and whoever else we need to beat on to make sure that it gets populated, because just like Commissioner McDaniel was saying, that is a 10-year penalty for that snapshot in time. And really, our population is held up in the walking around population, as you call it, is held up well, and the school population is held up well. Bay County is down over 20%, and they're not going to be back by April 1st next year. They just don't have places to live. But we can solve most of our problem by getting those 2 units back up and running. So we've got about 10 months to get them back in, and I think you will be able to house them. Your facilities are going to be through. I don't know if you're going to have your people right, but when we get down to December, we're going to need to know something going forward, because we need to meet that deadline. It's extremely important.
Yes, sir, I understand that. And it is the agency's goal to get both units back up and running. And, but as you know, it's staffing.
Right.
We've lost probably close to 85 to 90 staff and our individuals, correctional officers, since the storm come through. And prior to the storm coming through, we were looking at 125 vacancies. Now we're looking at between 212 and 215. And we still have staff that are leaving. And so the agency's goal is to get both units back up and running. I'm trying to get them to focus on the main unit right now and get as many inmates in there as we can, because I'm appropriately staffed for right now to run the main unit, all dorms. And you're looking at about 1,400 inmates right there. But the agency is looking at the annex. That's why they're going ahead with the reconstruction and getting it built back up, with hopes of, with new businesses and opportunities coming in, that people will continue to be drawn to Gulf County, Bay County, but, you know, we're facing issues, hiring issues, just as everybody else is right now.
Right. All right. Any more questions for the warden?
On April 1st, we made the joke when we were up there, even if you can just get them in the parking lot in the bus, just leave them on the bus and then take them back where they came from, but we really need them here.
Yeah, go borrow some.
Appreciate your efforts, sir.
Yes, sir.
Borrow some.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. All right, moving on right on down to county staff business. Mr. Hammond, you're up first, sir.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet that Kerry should have gave you, number A. At our last meeting, you directed staff to put a response together to the unsigned, unnamed individuals that are trying to raise money to sue us about beach driving. You want me to read it, or you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the concerned citizens regarding the recent pamphlets opposing beach driving in Gulf County. First and foremost, to all citizens of Gulf County, the county commission implores each and every resident to contact your county officials for accurate and up-to-date information and facts regarding beach driving. Second, the county commission strongly encourages residents to attend and inquire directly at county commissions for everyone's public consumption and clarity of the facts versus distractions and half-truths. Number one, in 2007, Gulf County established an erosion control line in conjunction with a successful beach restoration project which oversaw the addition of $22 million worth of sand to our coastline. The restoration program was paid for by a combination of local taxpayers from the district area, Gulf County taxpayers, as well as the state funding for all Florida taxpayers. The funding for the restoration project required an ECL line, erosion control line, to be established whereby critical restoration funds could be lawfully used on Gulf County's public coastline. Gulf County is further supported in its lawful regulation and oversight of its beaches and use through the long-standing customary use legal doctrine. In addition, a summary of the established ECL line establishes the restored beaches of Gulf County as public lands. The successful restoration program in 2007 is scheduled for maintenance currently permitted for this calendar year. The Gulf County Commission, in cooperation and support from the state of Florida, has committed and pledged 2/3 of the contracted cost, $7.5 million, for this restoration program. This program not only benefits the upland landowners with further coastal protection, but also protects and enhances multiple protected endangered species and habitat around our coastline. The historic beach driving in Gulf County has long been established and documented as part of our culture and custom for more than 100 years. The law of Gulf County has not only established its lawful access and use of the land seaward of the ECL line, it has also long established law regarding and regulating vehicular traffic and access to use of the beaches through rules, license, and regulation. The current beach driving ordinance, as well as the Leave No Trace ordinance, specifically speaks to the rights and privileges issued by the Gulf County Board of County Commissioners under its statutory home rule powers. Gulf County Board of County Commissioners is committed to protecting the rights of law-abiding citizens to utilize our beautiful beaches, including the right to drive responsibly. Sincerely, Sandy Quinn, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So that everyone, we've been finding some people on the beach that are, in their mind, they think they own to the water. And just to clarify, that's one reason we did this letter, and we've taken up some signs this weekend, and so that everyone knows, once those public funds were expended for that beach sand, and Warren, you can talk more than I can on this. That easement was established on that beach for public use, and that is not private beach, so that everyone knows. And Warren, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. Commissioner. It's been long established that through customary use that's been public lands through most of the state of Florida. In some areas, it may wind up in Supreme Court, but it's well-established customary use. Over and beyond the customary use, in some of those areas where you had to remove some signs this weekend, is you had to establish that ECL to use those public funds to restore that beach and do the restoration process. So you're absolutely right. It's public beach. It's for public access and the right for all citizens to use that beach.
Also, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I was on the beach Saturday with my family and spent the whole day. I just wanted to tell the sheriff that his man was patrolling the beach, checking permits, and everybody was very respectful that I saw that was driving on the beach. No speeders, no, everybody was very respectful in what they were doing. And we're going to have, Sheriff, if everybody abided by the law, we wouldn't need you, if we get out on the highway, people are going to break the law. You're going to have that 1% that's going to break the law. Well, you're always going to have that 1%, even on the beach, that's going to access across private property, that's going to drive beyond the speed limit, and sometimes you're going to have a few people that are going to run over COs. We're always going to have that. But the majority of people abide by the law, and they respect beach driving, especially your local people. We've been doing it for 100 years. And I think this board supports beach driving, and will continue to support that. That's something that the people of Gulf County can do, that still can do, that they enjoy. And we've been through a hard time with a storm. And that's something that all of Gulf County enjoys doing. And I tell you, the people to go down on that beach and take your family is a great thing. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
And we're going to continue to take those signs down, and every time they put them up a private beach. If we didn't have beach driving, especially on the Cape Beach, you have a private beach. We have very limited access points to that beach, and you would have to go miles walking to access beach. So the only way to have that as a public beach is for beach driving. I talked to Mr. Traylor this morning. I don't know if he's here in the audience. Saturday morning when they went down to pick up those signs, in that entire stretch, they picked up 2 bottles of trash. The beaches were cleaner this year than we've ever seen them from Memorial Day weekend, and people were more behaved. So if the board's good with that, if we'll send that letter, and we will get it to the CCA, and they can post it on their website, and we'll move forward.
Need a motion for that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McCrone,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on sending this letter? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Anyone in the public? All right, come on up, Dr. Hartman. State your name, who you represent for the record, please.
Patricia Hardman, Coastal Community Association. I totally agree with what you're doing. The citizens of Gulf County, we don't have enough public beach accesses, so that you would limit greatly anybody that didn't have a front water house being able to get on the beach. And since we've changed the ordinance, it's 100% approved. And Sheriff has done a great job, and I just wanted to be on public record to say I'm absolutely 100% behind you, and the CCAS.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, anyone else in the public? Anyone else? All right, any opposition to that motion? All right, motion passes 5-0. You still have the floor, Mr. Hammond.
Chairman, B of your packet, a little screw up on my part. When this was initially sent out, this is on the golf course management system. The original notice was for noon on Friday and open at 1 o'clock on Friday. Quickly after that was put out, we realized that we weren't going to be here on Monday to review them, so we backed that date up to Thursday. The problem was at least half a dozen of those notices had gone out to individuals that had requested a packet early on. So we had at least one. I don't know how many we had that after that fact, but we just had one. So since we only had one and it's an RFQ, I'd like the board to accept that as turned in timely, and for us to open that bid this morning.
Okay. All right, we need Mr. Novak, we need a motion to accept that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just note the Scrivener's error and accept the RFQ that was submitted per what was posted.
All right, I entertain the motion that we accept it.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on this, accepting this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, if the clerk could open that at this time.
Madam Clerk, you have the floor.
Okay, this is bid 181932 for the Gulf County Management Services for the golf course operations. We received one bidder, Jordan Arnold.
And it's not going to be a numbers bid, it's just going to be a qualification. So if we just accept that, that's fine.
So Lynn don't have to, she gonna read anything, or? There's nothing to read, okay, all right.
Right. So going forward, the golf course met last week and agreed to accept our terms. We need to adjust a couple of things on the contract, which is, did we put it in here? E, I apologize. On E, we're going to change a couple of names. We're adding Paul Penn and Gary Madison, and we're striking in the addendum, we're striking ownership. It's if the county commission ceases to operate the golf course, that would trigger the right of first refusal. So if we could approve that for me to close based on those changes, my intent is to close owner before July 1 of this year. And also in that I could negotiate with this bidder if we can come to an agreement, negotiate and execute a contract with him for a potential closing date, simultaneous closing date and change of operation on July 1 of this year.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So that everyone knows, Michael, that this is strictly TDC money,
That is correct.
no ad valorem tax money.
That is correct.
So
Yeah, that's a good, I'm glad you pointed that out. So, appreciate that, Mr. McCrone, all right. I entertain a motion that we accept Mr. Hammond's recommendation with those changes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on this? Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public? Anyone in the public? Anyone in the public on this? All right. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you,
All right,
Mr. Chairman. Number C, this is a cleanup. I need permission to pay 2 invoices for refrigeration emergency under your policy, one for $916.20, the other one for $6,692. And that's C in your packet.
All
Need a
right.
motion to pay?
Please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Rogers,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on paying these bills?
I abstain, Mr. Chair.
All right. All right, any further questions, commissioners? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? You got a question?
So Highland View is up and running? The air
Yes, sir.
conditioner? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone in the public? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. All right, Mr. Hammond?
Number D, Chairman. Need permission to pay, this is a little of a quirk. It came up a couple years ago. They changed the rules for senior management retirement sometime back. So if you were in the position when the change was made, you were eligible to get retroactive benefit for the difference, 1.6 versus 2.0. We have a couple of employees. We had one that we did about 2 years ago, but we have a couple of employees. Lee and Mark both had that change. So I'm recommending that we pay the difference to make that whole. Be paid out of their budgets, and we will address that later on with a budget amendment.
Okay. And you say this is for retirement.
Yes, it's a change from regular risk to senior management retirement.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McCrone.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, not in your packet, we have scheduled a workshop at 4 o'clock on Thursday with the city regarding the annexation in Highland View. We've had quite a number of calls, negative calls. I will have you a packet on Thursday, giving you the county city interlocal agreement in 2005, which specifically states in item 4, which was not struck with the updated interlocal, that the city and county agree to plan the use of potential annexed areas of close proximity to existing development areas via workshop between the city and the county. Future annexations will not occur in the Highland View community without a referendum. So it's pretty clear, and unless the board chose to waive that, it wouldn't be my recommendation, then the only way that this can happen, voluntary or not voluntary, is to have a referendum in that community. This proposed development does not fit anywhere in Gulf County, but it certainly doesn't fit in an existing community that the development would be larger than the entire population of that community. There's nowhere in the city of Port St. Joe that has density of 30 units per acre. Their previous maximum was 7. If the city is going to even contemplate 30 units an acre, then it would be my recommendation to never allow any future annexations, because if we wanted to do 30 units an acre, it wouldn't be feasible or wise, but if we wanted to, there's no need to have it annexed. This would open the Pandora's box to bus density at the Cape and St. Joe Beach and everywhere else, and would be destined in a few years. This is a horrible plan. The land use change has already been advertised, and they've had their first reading. It's not even in the city of Port St. Joe yet, and they've already had the annexation change for R4, which would allow up to 30 units an acre on that 9-acre piece of property. So I think we're way down the hill, but we need to take a firm line, and I'll be glad to hear them out, but that type of density on Highway 98 in a residential community is not conducive. So I will provide you these documents for our meeting, and again, 4 o'clock at the EOC.
On Thursday, Mo?
On Thursday, yes, sir.
What is the height limit in the city?
60 feet to the eave. So in theory, you could be 75 to the top of the roof. Not conducive to be in front of a residential community that's been there for 90 years.
Just to give the public an idea of what is barefoot, how many units per acre?
I believe it was under their old rule, which is 7.
7. So just to give everybody an idea what kind of congested area.
The reason that this interlocal was written the way it was because of barefoot. The developers came to the county because it was a swamp land. The county density in that area would have allowed for about 7 units, and they got well over 100 from the city, because the city counts credit differently than the different comp plan, because they give them credit for wetlands the same. But, just like barefoot, every one of those had feet of water, 4 or 5 feet of water in it after the storm. But also some of those places you can't even park at the house. You got to walk across a little bridge to get you groceries to your house. So I mean, that was the reason that it was written this way, to stop those type developments from sprawl. Again, they jumped across the water, and the county didn't object to it originally, and that's how we are. But remember, the city limit sign of Port St. Joe is basically at Pine Street at St. Joe Beach. So if this happens in Highland View, your next development will be at Pine Street.
So barefoot is 7 per acre, 7 units
That's
per
correct.
acre. They're wanting 30 on this property.
That's correct.
Okay.
Up to 30. They're actually the request is, I think, 176 units on that 9-acre, which 176 units is like 350 some odd parking places. That's more parking that's at the Piggly Wiggly. So just think about that footprint on that piece of property, that stormwater, that traffic. And again, I'm more concerned about the precedent it would set when we have low density, That's, directly across from the bay, but if it were on the other side of the road, it would be 3 units. It's 4 units in the county. To my knowledge, the county's never given, since the comp plan went into effect, a density variance. It would set a horrible precedent to allow that type of high-intensity use.
Have you seen a sketch, a proposed sketch?
I have not.
And we're talking about the height, this is taller than, the old governor, is
That's
that right?
correct.
Think about that.
So, and again, there's no example of R4 anywhere in the existing city of Port St. Joe. And I was told by one commissioner that it could only be north of the Tapper Bridge, which would be Highland View. But just imagine if the city was going to do a 30-unit development on Constitution or Monument, what the outcry would be. So, again, I'm certainly willing to hear them out, but I have heard nobody, no local person, not from Cape San Blas, not from St. Joe Beach, not from Highland View, certainly, that is for density of 30 units an acre in Gulf County. That is Destin and Panama City Beach numbers, and that's what will open Pandora's box for us to become if we don't say no at this time. So it ought to be an interesting meeting Thursday. We will get that meeting advertised probably in the morning. If y'all want to add anything to it, I put other city and county issues, but if there's anything else that we need to talk about with the city, it's always good to have these from time to time. We have been working well with the city, but I think we just have to say no on this one. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. McDaniel.
Please, on this issue, I've had several phone calls from the residents of the Highland View community. In fact, one came to my home and talked over this, and it's really going to put a lot of devastation over there. If it goes through and it's built, some of you'll never see the bay again. We're talking about 6 stories high. And with the E, we're talking about 75 feet. Now, the Gulf County here, we have a 50-foot height limit to the top. That's it. And 3, and the most is on an acre will be 4 units, 4 houses per acre, but they gotta have sewer and water. They gotta have sewer, no septic tank, sewer and water. So we're trying to do the right thing, but to come in and put that in there, we don't know how. Are they gonna sell them? Are they gonna rent them? What kind of turnover? And in Highland View, there's only one way to get to 98. You can't get to it. You got to come out in every street in Highland View. And some of them was talking to me about it, said, well, you pull up there and you want to turn left to come into St. Joe's, you're hung up there for a while. But anyway, hopefully we can knock this thing in the head. I kind of wish the city of St. Joe hadn't went ahead and started advertising on this, but that's their decision. We don't run their business, and they don't run our business. But we're talking about a big operation just to satisfy a few realtors that probably don't even live here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
If I could, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
Michael, did I hear you say that they've already rezoned the property, but it's not in the city?
They've had the first reading on the ordinance to rezone the property.
And it's still in the county?
Yeah, and that's boggles my mind. You got to do the annexation first, but anyway, yes, that is correct. The other thing that probably point out that I have read the application. The application said they'll meet the requirements of transportation, which anything over 500 trips is going to require a turn lane and those type of things. There's nowhere for a turn lane. You're going to be in the bay on one side and you're going to be on private property. The pole's about 4 feet off the road, so the light poles. So it would be very difficult to pattern traffic to even for a turn lane there that require on this number of density units, it'd be 1,760 trips a day would be what it would be calculated on, 10 trips per unit per day. So it also said in the application that it was it was on public use, school property, but we changed the land use when the school board sold it to the original person back to MCR. So it is MCR, that's incorrect. Also said it was that this change would be conducive to the area around it, and of course it's not. It's, 15 times the density that's around it. So there are a lot of problems with this process, and I guess if you push it real fast and nobody knows, my first catch of it was that it was advertised in the paper. So the formal notice of this just kind of slipped through to a simultaneous. You can't change the land use on something that's not in your jurisdiction, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I get a legal opinion of it. It seems to be very dubious that you can change the land use before it's in your jurisdiction. So.
Mr. Novak.
Couldn't have said it better.
Right now, it's under county control.
That's correct.
Maybe we need to keep it under county control for the people of that neighborhood.
I would hope.
We have to go to court.
I would hope we don't, but I would hope that either we have an understanding that they're going to respect our density wishes, and it's not, it's pretty long-standing. I don't know of any commissioner that sat on this board in the last 30 years that wanted to blow up density in the county. So it's not even something that's different politic shades. It's local. It's people that move here. It's everything that wants to keep it small. And again, I'm certainly not against growth, and I'm certainly not against industry, and I'm certainly not against, progress. But we don't want to screw up what we've got. We have paradise. We don't want to change it. And this type of growth would be a massive thorn in all of our sides.
All right, any more questions? All right, we've been having a good relationship with the city. Hopefully we can agree to disagree, so hopefully we can work something out and, come to some type of conclusion. Hopefully, so Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll be there. All right. You still got the floor?
I'm done.
You done? Okay. All right. Any more questions for Mr. Hammond? Mr. Novak?
Mr. Chairman, I'll save my energy for number 9. I'm good right now.
All right. All right, Mr. Yeager?
Just one brief thing, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to let the board know that, as you know, a few weeks back, we made application to Triumph for loss of tax revenue. Triumph actually asked the counties to make application for all the agencies, funding agencies in your district. We received those funds, as you know, and we have dispersed all of those funds. I think except the city of Weewall, we've just received their signed agreement, and hopefully we'll be dispersing those today, and that will make sure that we meet the requirement of dispersing all those funds within 30 days. So the city of Port St. Joe has their funds, we have our funds, the school board has their funds, and hopefully today the city of Weewall will have their funds. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Summers? Mr. Collinsworth? All right. Ms. Herron? Mr. Cockton? Mr. Horton? All right. Mr. Whitfield? All right. Come on up.
I'll give you an update on our revenue. I gave you a handout earlier. It looks like our trending is progressively increasing in our revenue. I don't think we're going to lose as much as we anticipated. Just by going by the figures that we have for the first 7 months, we're going to be about $365,500 as a supplement from the ad valorem for our budget of $1,417,000. I think the projection on that at starting of the budget was 400 and something thousand. Is that right? Anyway, we're back. We're going to be back in the groove we was in. We're progressively increasing our runs from the nursing homes that's open back up and people coming back in the community. Next thing I got is, do you have any questions on that?
Any questions for Mr. Whitfield? No, sir, go ahead.
In your packet, I think you had a notice that we received a state EMS grant
Yes.
for a new ambulance. Total with our matching on it was $182,435. Those funds are available starting first of next month. We're at a critical time on our ambulances still. We put one in the shop this morning, or our new one from St. J. We really need the ambulance in Weewall. And I would like for you to entertain the idea of making that emergency purchase. If we bid it out and we have somebody build an ambulance, we're looking at a delivery of February or March of next year. There is demos out in the field that we can look at that meet our specifications, that we could pick up in the next 2 months. So I'd like your permission first, we need to either declare it an emergency to purchase or use a piggyback on another recent contract.
All right, Mr. Novak.
And I'll work with Mr. Novak on that.
Okay.
I'll review it with Houston, and if there's state contracts we can go through, we have that under our policy. And if that's not available to us, then if you deem that the emergency for public safety and health, you can use that exception under your procurement policy as well. So if you give him that latitude, I'll work with him and go under either one of those and report back to the administration which way he's decided to go.
If we could accept the grant first and agree to our match, is it 45,000 our match? And then
$45,604.
we'll try to come back with something Thursday, if you need to vote on it.
Okay.
But if we could get a motion to accept the grant and the county's match portion.
All right, I entertain a motion that we
So
accept the
moved, Mr.
grant.
Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner McCrone.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on accepting this grant? Anyone in the public on this grant? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
And what we probably can do, just thinking, in the event that there isn't a state contract, we can do a quick bid for a demo. It doesn't have to, I mean, we can do it in 2 weeks and still meet the requirements. I don't know if we can just waive it, and Jeremy's gonna have to do a little more research on that, but we can figure out a way to make it work.
Okay.
Moving forward. Going forward also, we do need another ambulance, so I've told Houston to budget that. We don't have the money Avalon-wise, but in the event that Mr. Yeager can figure out about this state appropriation that we're going to get, if we can buy another ambulance from that pot, then I would recommend that we do that too. We certainly can't afford anything extra in the Avalon budget this year, but if we can make the state money work, in lean times, we cut back on buying equipment, and it's catching up with us on the ambulances, and he's got a lot of high-mileage ambulances, and we don't need them breaking down.
All right. All right, go ahead, Mr.
Mr.
Whitfield.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
May I please? Mr. Whitfield, you and I work closely together on this, but our ambulances, we purchased 2, and they're right out here, 2 years ago?
Yeah, year and 2 years.
Going on 2 years, and they're pushing 100,000 miles, got 80,000 miles on one of them. In the north end of the county, which we run a lot too, our newest ambulance up there is 2007.
Right.
And then we got some 2000 or 2001 with the, Mr. Cawthorn and our maintenance try to keep those patched together. So hopefully we can get 2 out of this. As the administrator stated, we can budget 1 out of our next year's money. But we got to get back on a rotating cycle with these vehicles. When they spend more time in the shop than they do on the road, we've got some issues, and it's high maintenance too.
We're running 2 ambulances in South End and 1 ambulance in North End. And those 3 ambulances all run the same number of calls. So you got twice the runs down here, but you got twice the vehicles. So it's not like this North End truck is not making many runs. They're making the same number of runs. And going back to the new ambulance, I'd like to get some proposals up for you and present them at your next meeting,
Good.
Okay.
That's good.
and then you can make a decision on it.
All right. Appreciate it.
The other thing I got is, our contract with EMS Consultants, our building company, is gonna run out in June the 30th. And I'd like permission to go ahead and, renew that. And permission for either myself or Mr. Hammond to sign that contract. This particular company's been with us for years. They got the lowest rate around that we've found, even when we went out for EFPs on it. We at 4.5% of our collections, what we pay them. Usually it's 5 to 6% other companies are charging at this time. Our collections are averaging right now about 550 to 600 per run, billed run. And this is higher than most counties in our surrounding area. So they're easy to work with. They got a dedicated builder that works just with us. And then we're just starting a new program with them for our software that was mandated by the state. So it would be easy all the way around and just continue that contract.
All right, Mr. Novak.
Yes, sir. The provisions in the contract, I'll review them with Houston, and the administrator ordinance and policies that he can extend for an additional year with your authorization. So we'll draw up that addendum, and we'll get, if you could authorize either Michael or Houston to sign that.
Okay. All right, I entertain the motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Rich,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public on this? All right, any opposition to that motion? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for your help.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Houston.
Did we get the motion on accepting the
No,
grant?
I don't think, we gotta have.
We did we?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, 5-0, sir. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Mr. McKnight? Nothing? All right. Who I'm missing? I'm missing anyone? Ms. Roberts? Missing? Later. All right, Ms. Norris? Ms. Rhonda? Ms. Lanier? All right, who am I missing?
The agriculture agent?
Oh, okay,
Ray,
all right. Ray, all right, come on up.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman. Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Just have a few updates this morning. A couple of weeks ago, we had a fantastic Tupelo Honey Festival. It was better, this is the best festival that I've been to since I've been here as far as attendance too. If my numbers are correct, we usually have somewhere around 4,000 people that attend, and we have, from what I heard, over 6,000 people attended. Now, honey prices were good, but if you were a honey producer this year, it was so-so. We had a premature bloom in December. A lot of the trees, Tupelo trees, because of environmental stresses due to the hurricane. So by the time, some of these trees did end up blooming again during the traditional time they bloom in April and May, but there just wasn't a lot of nectar there. From what I understand, there were pockets of trees and areas that weren't subjective too much to the environmental stresses. So if you had your bees there, you probably made some honey. And that was another problem with bees, because we had a lot of beekeepers that lost their bees during the hurricane. So it wasn't such a great year for Tupelo honey for most. So we'll hope for better next year. One other item too, Dr. Y, our new large animal vet, will be here this Saturday at the Weewa 4-H Horse Arena. He's doing a Coggins clinic, which is for horses, of course. So if you're in need of, if you're going to plan on selling a horse this year, or breeding a horse, or moving a horse even to another county, you need an updated Coggins, and he can do that. Our registration is set up on our Facebook page. There's also flyers around town for that. You have to pre-register for that. Matter of fact, his vet tech, Lauren, is at our office right now as we speak with an open registration period. So we're looking forward to seeing Dr. White this Saturday. It's from 8 to noon. If you want to bring your horse to the facility there in Weewa, he's doing farm visits in the afternoon as well. He is also, I believe, closed now on some property just north of Weewa, and we'll be building a clinic so in the coming months. So we're very excited to have Dr. White here. Also had one other item actually for 4-H. Our 4-H camp season is right around the corner. That's July 8th through the 12th. Again, prices have gone up, and we're so thankful for Kim Bodine at Career Source for supplying some scholarship funds for that. So at least there will be a break there on the cost of camp. Right now we have 10 registered, and I believe we can hold 30 to 32 slots. Registration closes on June 7th, but it's usually kind of slow around now, and it usually picks up, and we fill up.
Tell the board what they jumped the rates to.
$300. So it's $300 for a camper. It's actually $350 for camp counselors. So that's substantial. The state is doing their best to try to get these camps to be more self-sustaining, when used to in the past with UF would kind of clear the budget sheet at the end of the year, so to speak. But these camps keep kind of going into the negatives. So they're raising rates on campers. But again, we're so thankful for Kim and the scholarships that we were able to apply here in Gulf County. One more thing, and I said that 3 times now, didn't I? I'll be leaving tomorrow, headed to St. Petersburg for our state agricultural response team planning session with Department of Ag. This is where we discuss plans about the upcoming year, strategies as far as recovery efforts, response efforts as a result from agricultural emergency response for storms. And I so hope not to have to use any of the information that I learned this week.
Right.
So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Ray?
Ray, I heard you. Master Gardener Program, good things.
Thank you.
Yep. So,
Thank you. We're proud of them.
Yep.
Yes, we'll have, once this graduating class ends in July, we'll have 15 Master Gardeners, and that's really good for Gulf County. So,
Right.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. I miss anybody else on the staff? Come on up, Mr. Ben.
Mr. Chairman and Board. Mr. McDaniel had called me last week and asked about an update on the radio system and where we're at. And I've got a meeting at 10:30, so he was probably going to bring it up during his time, and I thought if I could get up here now. We have been working on the north end and the south end trying to get our radio communications back in order. And it's a slow, very slow process. I know it's been 7.5 months since the storm. It's been just over 3 months since I was given the task. We've had several meetings, a lot of phone calls. I probably have over 100 emails right now back and forth, working with individuals, trying to get contracts in place. We do have an agreement in place with the Washington County School Board. That's who actually owns the tower in Weewa that we're looking at. We're in the midst of a load study on that, and we hope to have that in about 2 weeks. Then we'll know where we stand and what it's going to take to be able to get us on that tower. On this end, my meeting actually this morning is with Duke Energy on their tower. And so I'll see what we're going to have there to get our shelter in place for our equipment, and also what kind of agreement we're going to have to be able to be located on their property. I'm open for any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Ben?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Please, Ben, thank you for coming this morning. Just for the people that know there, we've been out of communications since the hurricane. We're going into our 8th month. And communications through radio communications, that's a safety issue. Our fire departments, our ambulance and all, we're struggling to try to communicate with each other. And I think this is going along, I think we're overdue for this. 8 months. Now, Mr. Administrator, I want you to appoint someone to head this up and report to you weekly of where we at. Now, I understand talking with Ben, we got a tower. The school board's gonna let us use our tower, but nobody knows whose antennas. Somebody in this world knows something about it. And let's trace them down and find out. If you send an email, well, I'm waiting on a reply. Well, get on the phone, call them. We got to get moving. 8 months without any communications, that's just unacceptable to me. But, Ben, we're gonna get busy on it.
Yes, sir.
Let's get moving.
We have been busy and we'll get busier.
Well, that's what I want to hear.
I come from a background in public safety, and so it's very, very important to me as well. I've been in EMS and fire, so
I have been
understand
for
the
a long
importance
time,
of
but
it.
you keep Mr. Hammond, our administrator, or the assistant administrator, Mr. Yeager over there, keep them. I want a weekly report to them, where we at. And if there's a hold up, and if you need something from them to maybe make a phone call or twist an arm, well, feel free. They'll do it.
Okay.
All right.
Will do.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ben.
Yes,
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. All right, Sheriff, got anything? You good? All right, anyone else I missed? Staff? You got them all? All right, board business. Mr. McDaniel, you want to go first?
Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that pretty much covered what I was going to bring up, but while we're here, I want to go ahead and thank our Public Works and all of our staff for the job that we've done in Gulf County. I'm not just because I love Gulf County and a Gulf County resident, but we're a lot farther ahead with our cleanup than Calhoun County and Bay County. I don't know when they're going to get out of it, but thank you, Mark. I know you've had a lot on your plate, and between you and the Public Works and the staff members here to move this thing along, and we'll be good. I feel like this time next year it'll be a thing we'll just sit around and talk about. You won't be seeing it everywhere. But, Mr. Chairman, that's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo that. Every time I know that they get tired of hearing the phone ring and looking to see who it is, but they always follow up and complete the task, which means a lot. I got a question for Administrator and them. Insurance, I know we're supposed to be working on some buildings. I know Highland View Fire Department still needs some doors rolled up. Can you give me a little update on?
We'll let Lee or Brad, Lee can tell us where we're at on the, we're close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are close. We're waiting on the final couple of reports back from the engineering. We've got them already listed in order, which ones we're going to do. Those will be handed out to the 4 or 5 contractors that were pre-qualified. Each one of them will get them. They will submit their bids to us, and we'll be trucking along from them. All your fire departments, EMS and WEWAL, Health Department, WEWAL, those are all first on the list. So we'll just start taking them one at a time, or 5 at a time.
And let me tell you that I'm disturbed at the pace, but the reason we've had to go through these hoops, we're talking about more than $1 million that we will be eligible to get back from FEMA for these deductibles on these buildings if we follow these protocols. So again, I know that, I don't know if the clerk, I know the tax collector had some damage a couple weeks ago in WeWall at the ag building because of leaks, and the tarp leaked and whatnot. I know they've had problems at the library. We're close, but we had to do it by this step in order to get that back. And we just don't have $1 million to waste on, and when I say waste, it would be nice to have gotten it fixed months ago, but we need the money. It's tight. So that's what we're trying to do. But in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get some progress. And again, just about every fire station's got doors blown in. The Cape's got doors blown in. Highland View, the beach they were a little bit different because they were specialty deal. But again, the library, both health departments, all that stuff's going to be a top priority.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Rich. All right, Mr. McCrone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, can you give us an update on the Indian Pass Bridge? I know we've done some repairs and buy us some time.
Yes, sir. So we went down there Thursday and met with them, and they weren't done Thursday, and they were gonna take, Friday they had some kind of corporate safety meeting, and then holiday was yesterday. And so I assumed that they were supposed to be finished up last week, so that's why I went down. They should finish up this week.
Okay, so they've wrapped those pilings and they're gonna buy us some time on,
Couple
Okay.
years. We need to be looking at funding for a new bridge, though, in the next 2 years. We need to have all that ready, and it's not a long term, it's 2 years, and then it's gonna be in foul shape again, is what I understand.
and we still fighting the road at the Cape.
Yep, Cape residents still have a third world country road to travel on.
The other thing is, there's a bad pothole, and it's been there since the storm. And I keep, right before you get to Station 1 on the Cape Road, there's been a cone out there forever. And if we could, I'm surprised somebody's not run off and tore the front end out of a car. It's bad, so. But anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, I just got one quick thing. I just want to know about, when I was coming in town the other day, I'm trying to figure out who owns, I don't know if the railroad company owns this property between Avenue A and First Street, right behind the old telephone company. Railroad company owns it. Well, here's my concern. I don't know who we need to contact, but we need to contact somebody. That building is pretty much collapsed. And with the summer coming up, my fear is this. Kids gonna be traveling back and forth from the Stackhouse to the Washington Gym to their summer program. And I can just imagine a little kid walking back and forth and going inside that building, because I don't think the fence is up to keep them out of it. And that, you can see the beams already about to collapse. So if it's somebody we can contact in reference to getting that thing fenced off, it need to be torn down,
I'll make contact with Mr. Gonzalez. They own the property.
They own, okay.
But all of the buildings or whatever are under the control of Genesee, Wyoming, and they don't have a presence here because of the thing. So it's a little bit convoluted, but St. Joe can make it happen to do it. I agree that building needs
Yeah,
to come
probably need
down.
a fence around or something, because if not, I just imagine a little kid just being nosy and walking up in there and one of those things collapsing on them. So I appreciate that. That's all I had. Moving on down to item number 8, bid openings. Widening and resurfacing, County Road 382.
Yes, Chairman, this is for bid 181931 for County Road 382 widening and resurfacing. We received 3 bids. The first bid is Piggott.
Did you?
P-I-G-O-T. Their bid total is $1,771,531.80.
Second bid is CWR Contracting Incorporated.
Their bid is $1,715,989.04.
Last bidder is Robertson Roberts Incorporated.
Their bid total, $1,574,831.10.
Mr. Chairman, if you could give these to Clay and Mark and let them review them and come back later in the meeting with a recommendation.
Okay.
That bottom number is within the budget this time, so that's a positive, so.
Okay, all right. All right, moving on down to item number 9, final public hearing, Gulf County ordinances. Mr. Novak, you gonna run with this?
Mr. Chairman, first one I'm going to introduce to you is the Muni Code codification of Gulf County ordinances. If you all recall, the first public hearings we had for these, they were all advertised in the local paper. We had our first reading, the first public hearing. Today is your second and final public hearing on each of these 4 ordinances. If there's any objection, I'll read them by title. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you before you open it to the public.
All right, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, the first ordinance is an ordinance adopting and acting a new code for Gulf County, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing for the severability and modifications that may arise from consideration at public hearing, providing for a penalty for the violation thereof, and providing for the manner in amending such code, and providing when such code that this ordinance shall become effective. As we discussed, this was advertised as of April 28th for a public hearing on May 9th, and again advertised on May 16th for a public hearing today for the second final. As I mentioned to you earlier in the month, this is the culmination of a lot of work by Ms. Norris and her staff, as well as Muni Code, which she secured the grant to have this done. I know in the last 10 years working for you that this is something that I think your entire staff and probably the public have all looked forward to. A lot of the 67 counties are moving towards it, which will make your code accessible on the internet so folks can get Gulf County laws. And I think she carried in some fancy books earlier. I don't know if those were it, but they're nice shiny books that are new codification of Gulf County laws. So Ms. Morris may have some comments in addition to this. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for it. This ordinance would then ratify it and authorize the adoption of the Muni Code moving forward.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Norris?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are pretty excited about this, and I'll have, once you adopt the ordinance, then I'll have a book for the county and one for the county attorney. And like Mr. Novak said, this code will be put out on the internet, and it'll be searchable. It'll be updated typically within 24 hours of them receiving our ordinances. The manual books, will get updates periodically at whatever the attorney and I decide is the best interval. But I think this is this is really good for us, and we'll have one in the administrator's office for you guys, and then the attorney will have a hard copy as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Norris, you and your staff for your hard work putting this together. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
We couldn't have done it without Mr. Novak's help.
And thank you, Mr. Novak, for your assistance, sir. We really appreciate it. All right, I need to open up to the public, right? All right. Final public hearing on the codification of these Gulf County ordinances. It's open to the public. Anyone in the public, you can come forward if you any questions or concerns. Final public hearing. If there being no one in the public, it's closed to the public. All right, Mr. Novak.
Mr. Chairman, if you would all accept a consideration for adoption of the ordinance.
All right, I entertain a motion that we accept.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0. All right. Final public hearing on Gulf County solid waste disposal and flow control.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hammond's helping me out, so thank you, Ms. Norris. The second, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, is the flow control ordinance. And I will read that by title, 2 whereases, and then section 4 to try to save the commission time before you open it for public hearing. We read this again the first time on the 9th of May. We're here again on the 28th. It's the ordinance of Gulf County establishing a Gulf County solid waste disposal ordinance, establishing a flow control within the boundaries of Gulf County as authorized by Florida Statute 403, providing for legislative findings, providing penalties, providing for appeal or severability and modifications that may arise from consideration at today's public hearing. The two whereas I wanted to note for the record, the Commission delegated for Florida Statute 403-706 that the responsibility and power to provide for operation of solid waste disposal in the unincorporated areas of Gulf County and thereby to establish a plan for regulating flow control of solid waste generated in or brought into Gulf County. Also, whereas the Commission and their staff, after several years of careful review and consideration, have deemed it timely and appropriate for Gulf County to adopt a solid waste flow control ordinance to preserve and enhance the public health, quality of life, and public safety within Gulf County. Commissioners, if I can ask you to turn to page 2 in section 4. I'll skip the authority and the purpose, the other legalese that's before it. Section 4 is solid waste disposal regulations and flow control process in Gulf County. I'll read this for the record. This is the meat of the ordinance. The flow of all solid waste generated in or brought into Gulf County for transfer or disposal, which is required to be disposed of in a Class 1 solid waste disposal area, shall be directed to an appropriate and permitted transfer or disposal area within Gulf County. All solid waste generated within unincorporated areas of Gulf County shall be disposed of as provided by the county in agreement or by rule or regulation. C, shall be unlawful for any person to dispose of or transfer any solid waste within the areas of unincorporated Gulf County when such solid waste was not generated within the area of the jurisdiction unless an appropriate interlocal agreement or other disposal or transfer agreement authorizing such disposal or transfer has been authorized by the Board of County Commissioners or delegated to the county administrator through the Gulf County Administrator's Ordinance. D, failure to dispose of transfer solid waste as required by this ordinance shall constitute an express violation of this ordinance. E, collection, transport, or disposal of hazardous waste is prohibited without an agreement with or permit from the county. Household hazardous waste shall be disposed of at a county-designated transfer facility or landfill. F, it shall be unlawful for any person to engage in business of collecting, transporting, or disposing of solid waste within the unincorporated areas of Gulf County without a binding agreement with the county. The Commission reserves the right to revoke any agreement for failure to comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement, or if the renewal of the agreement conflicts with any portion of this ordinance. Any amendment hereto or any subsequent ordinance or code provision regulating the collection, transport, or disposal of solid waste. G, this ordinance shall be applicable to all incorporated areas of Gulf County, Florida, and such other areas which operate under this ordinance and future codified article by interlocal agreement. It's set up for codification. The book you just received, this will become future law of Gulf County if you adopt it today. It sets up provisions, severability, and codification. I'll repeal or clause for anything that conflicts with this, and it's set up for today for your adoption of May 28, 2019. Mr. Chairman, I offer it to you for public comment. Any questions of staff?
All right, and just a real quick question. This is consistent with what's going on around us in surrounding counties, correct?
It is, sir.
All right. At this time, I open it up, final public hearing on the solid waste disposal and flow control. It's open to the public. Anyone in the public want to come before the board with any questions or concerns with this flow control ordinance? Anyone in the public? All right, if there being none, it's closed to the public. All right.
Is there any comments or questions from the commission, from the staff?
If I could, Mr. Chairman. My only concern, Jeremy, we've talked about it, is the, I don't want it to create an unfair situation with our local hauler as far as the roll-offs. And can you clarify on that?
Yes, sir.
I mean, as far as BCC, they're going to control the waste coming through. If they're in the roll-off business, I just don't want it to create an unfair advantage for them, you know, over our local haulers.
So, and Commissioner, you've discussed that with myself over the last month and a half as we've gone through this, and I know some of the commissioners have one-on-one with myself and Mr. Hammond. In terms of BCC, who you've awarded the contract to, starting on June 1st, that is your new hauler for the next 5 years. The flow control ordinance does two things. One, requires a contract with the county to collect on the unincorporated areas, and makes it mandatory, which they have. The second is that there's a flow control, that everything on the unincorporated areas must go through our transfer facility at 5 points, and the rate to be set is paid by everyone. So whether it be BCC or other haulers in the county, private for commercial purposes, they all have to pay the same rate because the county is receiving the benefit of that per ton tipping fee. So when it comes across the scale, it's a uniform rate, whether it be BCC or any other vendor, they all pay the same rate to Gulf County. And we, the taxpayers, receive that same rate. So there's no unfair in terms of rates. They're all uniform across the board.
Okay.
And that is expressed to the hauler that you've selected, BCC. And I know the president's here today, and he understands that expressly, that is an absolute condition of the rates that comes through the county.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? Mr. Novak? All right. We'll entertain a motion.
So move.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rich. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this flow control ordinance? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The third public hearing today, again, May 9th, again today, May 28th. We've advertised twice in the paper. As you recall, historically, over the last few years, Tallahassee has evolved into the new medicinal marijuana compassionate care legislation that legalizes it for medicinal purposes. And you had a moratorium in Gulf County through ordinance multiple times that you extended. At our first public hearing, I read the ordinance by title. I will do that again today, answer any questions you have. And this is obviously following my conversations with each of the commissioners, understanding the law that's been adopted. It may continue to evolve, and the state may adopt new laws moving forward. But right now, what we've done is we've prepared an ordinance per your wishes that bans the medicinal marijuana dispensaries, treatment centers, here in Gulf County based on the population and the studies that have been afforded. And the Florida statute under 381 affords you, the county, or a city for that matter, to the ability to adopt a law under home rule that bans those dispensaries. So I'm going to read it by title. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay. An ordinance of Gulf County, Florida, establishing a prohibition of medical marijuana, cannabis, low THC cannabis, and derivative products, treatment center dispensing facilities within the boundaries of Gulf County, as authorized by Section 381-986 of the Florida statute, providing for legislative findings, providing for a moratorium contingency, providing for penalties, providing for repeal or severability modifications that may arise from consideration of public hearings, and providing for codification and effective date. As I indicated earlier, this also will become part of Gulf County law, become part of your Muni Code, and included in that book and online. And what you're doing is you're banning the establishment of a treatment center dispensing facility as they defined it under the statute. And then there's also a moratorium contingency under Section 4, which also affords us that in the event that Section 381 of Florida statute is amended or interpreted by a court in a way that eliminates or prevents the county's ability to ban this dispensing facility, that the county then instantly and immediately implements a moratorium for you all to gather again meet, discuss the changes in the law, but it takes out that loophole that if the state law changes, that you are covered in terms of a moratorium moving forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, Commissioners.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Let me add two again. I didn't vote for it. I don't like it. I think we don't need more potheads out there. I don't like it at all, but we're not, what the idiots on Facebook don't understand is that in the county, forget the cities for a minute, because of land development regulations that we already have in existence, there's only going to be one or two spots without a land use change where this would be allowable. It's almost like strip clubs, you know, they can't be in residential neighborhoods, they can't be near schools, they can't be all these things. So we're looking at the industrial road in the county is basically the only place now, somewhere around Commerce Park, just outside the city, is basically the only place where in the county that they would be allowed to have the one dispensary that we would be eligible for. Now, the city, it's a different animal. If they wanted to handle it potentially by the hospital, potentially, but there's a school, remember, the daycare, whatever, right across the street. So when you put in the restrictions that are already in the law and you put in the restrictions of the county existing land use, they're virtually one place without a land use change to put these. So Bay County will have dozens probably, Tallahassee will have some. The fact that we are not bending over to have one of these dispensaries, I don't know that it would be financially feasible for someone to open a pot dispensary for medical use in Gulf County. I just don't know how many people are going to qualify for that and to make it viable. But this is just a reality of the facts. Without a land use change, nobody's going to want one of these in their backyard. I mean, the individuals it's going to attract, some people obviously need it, glaucoma or whatnot, but I just don't see the outrage. You know, apparently it came up that we're banning medical marijuana. We're not banning medical marijuana. We're just not allowing them to put a dispensary in somebody's backyard. So just want to clarify that.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions, Commissioners, for Mr. Novak? All right, so this is the final public hearing for prohibition of medicinal marijuana dispensaries. We're going to open it to the public. Anyone in the public want to come forth? Any questions or concerns? Anyone in the public? All right, if there being none, it's closed to the public. Mr. Novak.
Mr. Chairman, if there's a motion on the commission seeking to adopt that ordinance.
All right, I entertain a motion that we adopt.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McCrone,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fourth and final public hearing today is with regards to the TDC. Mr. Hammond's providing you the draft of the ordinance. Again, May 9th was the first public hearing. Second's today, May 28th. Both times advertised on April 28th and advertised again on May 16th. It's been publicly posted for over a month. There's been recommendations of your TDC staff at their meetings the past 2 years in contemplation of this fifth penny as it begins to sunset at the end of this year. This ordinance would then institute another 5 years for the 5th cent. And I'm going to read it by title and then read the two pertinent parts for the commission's consideration and answer any questions or Ms. Kelly would offer any as well. An extension for the ordinance of the Board of Gulf County Commissioners of Gulf County pursuant to Florida Statute 125-0104 for the continued imposition and levy of an additional 1% tourist development tax, the 5th cent, in the existing Gulf County Tourist Development District in Gulf County, Florida, providing for the collection and designation of the additional tax, specifying the use of the proceeds of the additional tax, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing that this ordinance shall take effect and continue in effect immediately upon adoption, and that the effective date and levy of the imposition made effective date of the levy and imposition commencement of collection of the additional tax hereunder shall be January 1, 2020. It lays out the historical adoption of this going back to 2014. When you advertised and adopted on September 9th of 2014, it was unanimously adopted by this commission upon recommendation of the county TDC. Whereas the direction of the county commission at the April 28th, 2019 public hearing you authorize the advertisement and the readings of this ordinance. If you would, on the third page, or actually on the second page, Section 1 talks about the imposition of the additional 1% tourist development tax. It cites the statutory grounds on which you can impose this. Section 2 is a collection of the additional tax, which would be for the period of January 1 through 2020 through December 31st of 2025 by the clerk of the circuit court without priority or distinction, in addition to the other 4% that's currently being collected. Section 3 speaks to the use of the proceeds of additional tax, which is important to read for the record. The proceeds of the additional tax imposed by this ordinance shall be used exclusively to promote and advertise tourism in the state of Florida and/or nationally or internationally through its parks and recreation for the benefit of Gulf County. If the tax revenues are expended for an activity, service, venue, or event, that activity, service, venue, or event shall also have one of its main purposes, the attraction of tourists, as evidenced by the promotion of the activity, service, venue, or event to the tourists. It has the severability, codification, repeal, or modification effective date, and a filing with the Department of State. If you so choose to adopt this ordinance today, it's prepared for your motion and second and the vote of each commissioner. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Novak in reference to this 5th cent? Any questions for Mr. Novak? All right, this time it's the final. You got a question? This is the final public hearing on the 5th cent TDC tax. It's now open to the public. You come forward, boy. Come on.
Just clarification, I think my ears are wearing out at the length of time we've been here, but this penny will still be for the Parks and Recreation and be reserved for that area, like the old one was.
Yes, yes.
Yes?
No change.
No.
No change.
Huh? No
We-
change.
No change, yeah.
We just extended another 5 years.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Final public hearing coming for the board. All right, if there being none, it's closed to the public. Mr. Novak?
Mr. Chairman, just one note from Dr. Hardman's comments, which I think it's important, is the use of this tax. As you know, right now, the county's being sued on the use of this tax. You've also utilized this tax in the last few months to expand your parks and recreation. Mr. Hammond spoke about it earlier today in terms of funding for acquisition of additional parks and recreation, possibly the golf course. So as you move forward, the use that you're using it for falls within the 4 corners of the ordinance, and we'll continue to do that if you so choose to adopt this.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, I entertain a motion that we adopt.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion that we adopt this.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. One item under county staff business earlier, 2 things I neglected to mention. I just wanted to offer to the Commission for Public Information and for the record, 2 additional RFQs that you've authorized, 1 RFP, 1 RFQ, have gone out and are being advertised or have been this past week in the paper. Your CDBG consultant for community disaster block grants from the recovery of Hurricane Michael is 1819-34, which has been publicly posted. It's on the county website. And also a previous RFQ for qualified HVAC contractors that you authorized several months back has been advertised and is publicly posted on the county website. It's 1819-33. I just wanted to note that for the record today.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, move on down to item 10. Mr. Mark Johnson, partial prefab modular steel structures. All right, he's not here? Okay, all right. All right, Mr. Hammond, you want to go ahead on and go to
Second, I'm sorry.
Smallwood and Mark with their recommendation?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Bid 1819-31. This is the re-advertisement for County Road 382. You remember it came in $250,000 over budget the first time. We revised some scope, put it back out. You had 3 responsive bids, and our recommendation is to award it to the low bidder, Roberts & Roberts, in the amount of $1,574,831.10, and that is within the grant amount.
Okay. All right. So wishes of the board.
Make a motion, we accept the low bid.
All right.
Robertson Law.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
Second.
second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman, if we could add in,
Yes, sir.
we had cut back the scope slightly to get under bid. If you'd allow me to change order the difference to utilize the extent of that grant.
All right, Mr. McDaniel, that's fine. You add that in?
I agree.
Okay. All right, any more board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Smallwood. All right, Mr. Hammond, you got the floor.
Second
Administrative
round,
update.
I'll try to make it fast. We need to ban meetings after long weekends. I think that's, I killed Carrie this morning, so she's probably not gonna talk to me the rest of the week because it was pretty hectic trying to get ready this morning. I'd intended to present you with the LDR update provisions, about a 400-page document. I will have those ready for you Thursday, and we'll start that process. Mr. Butler's been working on that for the last couple months. It's mainly clean up. All of the pertinent parts are marked in red where we're striking. Again, the biggest change will be in how we're doing inland wetlands issues. We went way too far, and it's causing major problems, especially on the river system and whatnot on lots created after 2006. So we will be adjusting that. No change in any densities, incorporating automatic variances like DEP requirements at Beacon Hill and St. Joe Beach. Anyway, but mainly clean up. It has not been done thoroughly in 20 years, so we needed a good cleaning. I think Mr. Tennell is here. He was here. If he wants to come, yes, if he'll come and give us an update on the change that's coming the end of the week.
All right, Mr. Tennell, just state your name and who you represent for us, please.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jason Tennell, BCC. As of close of business yesterday, we had deployed 2,900 garbage cans, so we're on schedule to be done with all the cans getting put out by Wednesday. We're ready to start Saturday. I mean, everything's out there, ready to go. We have already experienced a few bear problems out at Indian Pass, so we're dealing with that now. Anybody that needs bear-proof contraptions, if you will, we need to know and anybody we've missed, because there have been some folks that were omitted from the list that we received. So I don't know if they need to make the phone calls. They need to let us know, because we don't know if they don't call us.
Okay, and if you can get us, and we'll post it on the website and put it on the TDC website as well, the schedules for the communities, what day you're picking up in Overstreet, what day you're picking up White City type deal, where people will know. And again, we're gonna have some hiccups with the changeover, but if you don't have a brown can in your yard like I didn't last week, you gotta call them and they'll get you signed up.
Everybody should have one by Wednesday.
Just not in the city, just
Not in
county.
the city,
Right.
not in
Right.
Weewalt.
Right.
You know, some of the mailers that went out, the city's not till October the 1st, but some of the mailers went out, they crossed over because we did a mass mailer. I know there were some concerns
Yes.
about Weewalt.
Jason, did we get Barrier Dunes resolved?
Yes. Barrier Dunes is resolved. We had about 4 hours of discussion on the phone with the COA last week, and we have a solution.
Okay. And the other thing, do you plan on having an amnesty day like Westbrook did in the past, you know?
It was part of the contract.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, Jason, good morning. Sorry for the lengthy meeting, but I get calls. Do I use can A? And when can I start using can B? Do I keep putting it in the green can, or I put it in the brown can?
I don't know which one's A and B, but.
The green one's A.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one, and,
use number B.
yeah. No, seriously, when will you start picking up your cans, or BCC's cans?
Saturday, rather. We start picking up Saturday in the tourist corridor is the schedule. But you start using the new can.
Okay.
They're supposed to be picking up those new cans as fast as they're deployed.
You mean?
Servicing them, rather. Waste Pro is going to service our garbage cans until we start on Saturday.
All right, but the green cans, I know my pickup day is a Friday, and I don't know if they're gonna come Friday or not. I just don't know. But the people can start utilizing the new BCC cans. And I noticed one other thing. Let me ask you this. On the side of the can, and by the way, I got one, there's a phone number there. Now, is that for, tell me about the phone number on there.
Right now, the phone, it's a local number, and it will be at the transfer station.
Okay.
Right now, it's ringing forward because we don't have control over any of the technology in there yet. We don't have the Wi-Fi, the telephone, we don't have any of that yet.
But
we're
for the
trying to work
people of Gulf County, and I feel, I don't know that the city of St. Joe probably will come on board. I don't know, hopefully they will, and the city of Hitchcock. But that, we need, this is one of my pet peeves, that we have a local number that the people here, because where we've been calling it Old Panama City Beach, they don't know where White City is, or Highland View, or Jones Homestead. We want somebody that if a person has a problem, they can call this number, and you'll address it. Because if you don't know about it, then, you know, they call us. We get everything, so.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
For
good,
them to ring
good,
that
good.
number.
All right, thank you, sir. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it, Jason. Thank you.
Follow up with that on, I think the only thing left that we're gonna pick up on the side of the road is tires, and we've been working on that. So we may utilize work crews to assist in that, deal, but I would say we've probably got a good dump truck load full of tires countywide just going around that we're gonna have to dispose of. Waste Pro has refused to take them, and even though we've got credit, so we're gonna apply that credit that we didn't use to the cost of the transfer station when we settle with that. But we will be, county personnel will be picking up those tires that were put on the side of the road.
Good.
How about concrete, Michael? I still see some concrete on the side.
They're supposed to pick it up, and again, and I don't think Kyle's back there, we'll talk, some stuff was put out after the fact that we know that was put out after the fact, and we're gonna use code enforcement for that, but there was some difficult pieces. You can always tell the most difficult pieces they save for last, but there's been a big, it's part of a footer foundation on the side of the road, and it's right past the trading post on the left, and I've been watching that. As of last Thursday, they had not picked that up. I don't know if they have yet or not. Okay. So that was one that had been there for months that, you know, nobody wanted to pick it up because it was, somebody picked it up because they drug it to the side of the road. So anyway, but we're going to get, our intent is to get everything that was legally put out. Right. And we'll handle the illegal stuff on a case-by-case basis. Had some severe problems with FWC this weekend, and I just say that going forward, we might need a workshop with some of their upper management, maybe the colonel or whatnot, but I'll address that maybe at our Thursday meeting. It was really over the top, and a lot of folks were harassed, and anyway, I've had a lot of calls the last couple of days, and it's something that we need to address because when law-abiding citizens feel uncomfortable, that's a problem, and that's too much enforcement.
Hold on a second, Ms. Hammond. Mr. Rogers got something.
Not on that especially, but we're under a no burn ban in the county.
That's my next thing on my
Was that the
topic.
next thing on? Well,
Okay.
please, inform people if they have a fire and it gets out of control, they're responsible then. It could get very expensive.
I'm gonna propose to you, I'm assuming it's not gonna rain by Thursday, but we need to do it by doing a local state of emergency. I'm gonna propose Thursday that we institute a burn ban. We don't have a burn ban today. I hate it. I hate government intervention in people's lives, and folks wanna have a bonfire or whatnot, but the state last Wednesday, I believe, stopped issuing permits, but that doesn't affect people with burn barrels, and it doesn't affect, campfires on the beach and whatnot, but it is dangerously dry. And so just be thinking about it. I'm not going to push it, but I'm going to recommend it at our Thursday meeting, that we have a local state of emergency and do a burn ban, complete burn ban, until we get some measurable rain, because as much crap is in the woods and in the ditches and whatnot, it would be a bad situation. Code enforcement's been sending out a lot of letters and doing some stuff. We're getting some pretty good response. Again, it's got a lot of work to do in Oak Grove and Highland View, but again, a lot of folks are responding appropriately. Houses have been torn down. I think the main one was there at the entrance at Guff Air that had been dormant for about 6.5 months and was caving in on itself. They got that torn down and looks a lot better. In your consent agenda that you passed today, we didn't name the roads, but we got a notice from DOT. They're going to have a quick turnaround on an expanded scrap and SCOP projects. So we submitted things that were pending, but on that list was the rest of Bay City Road, Old Bay City Road, that last little portion, the rest of Iola Road, which has been a massive problem for us the last couple of months because of these mudders. The prison, the road to the prison there at Stone Mill Creek Road that goes in and goes all the way and dead ends at the prison. The Steeble Loop in White City that goes around, it's a mile. I'm probably forgetting one other one. Oh, the cut-through road at between 98 and C30A, C30B. So those are the roads that we submitted, and hopefully we'll be hearing back from that in the next couple of weeks. County Attorney has one more thing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Michael. For fear I get myself in trouble, it's just as a point of personal privilege. I hope it doesn't upset the commission, but I need to talk about some numbers with the commission. It may upset two people in this room, but I wanted to talk to the commission. The first number, and it's not budget numbers, but our former chairman, Mr. McDaniel, turned 77 this past weekend, and I wanted to wish him a happy birthday from everybody here. And I know he'll be mad at me for that. The other gentleman, this month, he's a year shy of 3/4 of a century. He doesn't like me to talk about his age, but we're losing him and the young lady next to him as a taxpayer in Gulf County this month. But they came today, and I just wanted to, they have a lot of children, they have a lot of grandchildren. They're going to travel around the country now that they're both retired. We're losing them as taxpayers, but I just wanted to tell them thank you. Fantastic lawyers, but even better parents. So I just wanted to thank them for coming out here today. I don't know when I'll get that opportunity again, but I just wanted to note that. So I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and happy birthday, Mr. McDaniel.
Thanks, sir.
It is nice to see Miss Judy here. I thought we were going to de-Yankee-fy them and have them as permanent residents, but I think it's in the blood, and they're not going. It's too hot, too many bugs. That's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
one thing
Okay,
to
yes.
clarify, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
On Thursday's meeting, we've talked about adding a lot of things, and it appears that you might want to vote on something. So do you want to switch that to a special meeting versus a workshop?
I was going to ask the chairman to do a special before the
okay.
workshop, or after, I don't, either one.
Oh, okay, all right, that's all I.
They said they want to do it before. Okay. Well, now I got to, oh no, we might have to vote on this thing now. I might have a split here. I might have to break the tie.
If you'll let me know in the morning, we'll get it advertised in the morning, if that's good.
Well, I got two saying. We might have a 3-2 vote here. We'll get with you and let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Ms. Lanier, we got anybody want to come before the board? All right, before we get out of here, I ask the question, is there anybody in the audience that would like to come before the board? All right, coming up, young lady. Just state your name, who you represent for the record, please.
Melissa Delaney, 245 Bay Hibiscus Drive. 3 little quick things. I know it's a state road, but we need a keep right sign at Sunrise Sunset. It's paved on one side and gravel on the other, and people have been driving like they're in Britain, and it's really dangerous. So we just need a keep right side on there. Also, for BCC, lots of questions about when yard waste is going to start. So we need to figure out a way to update people about that, because they may start putting it out on Saturday, who knows? And the other thing is with the burn ban, if there's any way we can really ramp up banning fireworks, because we know we had major issues last year with fireworks, and it's fire. So those are my.
Okay, all right, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, anyone else? Anyone else like to come before the board?
I skipped one thing,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you may want to do it, just give a recap of our DC trip.
Go ahead. It's a great trip. Learned a lot of information.
I want to thank Steve Sutherland, our federal lobbyist. He had a jam-packed meeting session, and it would have been really easy if they were all in one place, but when you had to drive an hour and a half for a meeting and turn around and come back, we were able to meet, probably the most interesting meeting, to meet Senator from Oklahoma, that's the chairman of the Senate Appropriations, or Senate Armed Services Committee, and his staff, very reassuring on Tyndall. Because of traffic, the Bay County Commissioners didn't get to make that meeting, but we made it for him, and he's very knowledgeable and very supportive, and he was very spot on his amount that would be in the supplemental package for Tyndall, and if it hadn't been screwed up by that one Texas congressman, it would have passed last week, but we're hoping in the next week that will pass. Had a blunt meeting with FEMA and discussed the problems. We thanked them for all that they had done, but discussed the problems about not letting people put the RVs in their own yards, even though they were in flood zones, and how much they had spent on these group parks when they could have spent a fraction of the amount by letting folks, do it in their own yard where they all had the sewer and water and whatnot. Had a good meeting, but not what we wanted to hear from the Census Bureau, but very informative, and we got a 2-month delay on the institutional count, which should help us to get the prison redone in Weewillitchka, both the annex and the main unit. Met with Senator Dunn, Congressman Dunn, met with Senator Scott. His was very informative about, especially on the housing issues, which started us with our own plan, not to let the feds or even the state pick our plan, but to let us pick our own housing plan, and going forward. Just overall, a very, very good trip, and it was good to see they had 4 Bay County commissioners that were able to go, 3 Gulf County commissioners went in force. We were well received, and we were heard, and again, I think Steve put a lot together. I think we had 11 meetings in 2 days. That's pretty hard to do, but anyway, it was worth the trip.
Right. Right, just to echo what you said, everything was great. Like I say, great meetings, great information, and it looks good for Bay and Gulf County in reference to what's coming down the pipe. And like Governor Scott, he was like, hey, ask for it. Get it in a letter, get it to me, and he'll take care of the rest. So, man, I tell you what, it was like I said, great meetings, and you left out of there coming back to Gulf County with confidence that, hey, there's some dollars coming down to help the people. Now we can just get that one guy out of Texas to, go on and get this disaster bill passed. We'd have been ahead of the game, but hopefully they'll get everything done and get it passed. But we really appreciate everybody that went. Some couldn't go, but we represented Gulf County and those Bay County commissioners. Man, I tell you what, that was the first time I ever got a chance to sit down and kind of talk to those guys and hear their stories, and they got some stories of what's going on over there in Bay County. So make sure you continue to keep Bay County lifted up. Those guys are doing the best that they can, and like I say, one day at a time, we are getting back to where we once were. So it takes time. We can't snap our fingers, but just be patient with government, and it'll work, man. So we really appreciate that great information. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir.
I have one more
Yes,
thing,
sir.
and then we'll adjourn. In the meeting, Governor/Senator Scott, Gulf County and Bay County, we were there, and Senator Scott, all this cleanup, all these trucks, hauling this debris, the state, Governor Scott said the state will deal with FEMA on the money. Gulf County, you good to go. Taxpayers, you good to go. Bay County, their board had to borrow $250 million for their cleanup, and they got a $7 million interest payment coming up. Now, how would that look over here in little old Gulf County? Man, they'd kill us, wouldn't it? But we were arguing with the FEMA, please, at least send half the money to help, our neighbor Bay County. But Gulf County, let me tell you something. The staff we have and these commissioners, I know a lot of people, and I've said this a lot of times, The best day the preacher has is the day when he's preaching a sermon. It's every day when he's at a hospital visiting, and we're kind of in the same boat there. We work every day, you know, Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, our staff people, we're working, and it's paying off. Now, you don't have to cough up one penny of tax money, not a penny of it now. And look at Bay County. Look at Bay County, $7 million interest payment on $250 million of money they had to go out and borrow. But, Mr. Chairman, that's it. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, just to echo, like I say, continue to pray for those guys over there in Bay County. Like I say, they got man, it's a lot. And like I said, we was pushing, man. Y'all just get the people some of their money. You know, they got like I said, a $7 million interest payment coming up in January. You know, help those guys out, man. They can't. I mean, that that city can't afford that type of, you know, money up front. So whatever we could do, we did it. We tried to do on, you know, the echo on their behalf. And they had our back also. So we really appreciate the opportunity to visit with those guys in Bay County. All right, anyone else in the public want to come before the board before we dismiss? All right, we'll take this opportunity to thank you for coming out to the, I'm missing